Let's make something beautiful today. I have done a herringbone weave in the past, but this is next level because this one uses 2 pieces of wire for a doubled up effect. I just love the simplicity of the look, but it has impact. I used a little faceted rondelle. You could use any shape or size bead that you want as long as it fits on your core wire that we're going to use to make this twist. Many times in the past we've done a twist pattern that uses multiple wires. This is just one wire that we are going to flatten out and create this spiral twist look without having to use multiple wires. So that is a twist on a twist pattern that we're going to go through. We're going to go through this wonderful herringbone pattern using 2 wires. We're also going to be using the hole punch so that we keep it very minimal, keep it uncluttered with just a simple hole punch that we can attach an ear wire. It kind of felt like a Christmas ornament, a Christmas icicle with color and shape and spiral. I guess the Christmas season is getting to me. It's all the ornaments, and this just felt like that without being overtly Christmas. I mean, you could really wear this all year long, but it really is speaking Christmas to me. So I hope you are ready to do this. We're gonna go over just a few simple things that you are gonna need. A tweezer nose and a flat nose. Of course, I'm always using bail pliers, and of course you need cutters. The only extra little thing that you may want is the hole punch. And of course you don't have to do the hole punch. You could just do a simple loop at the top. So this is not a requirement. It's just to keep it kind of low-key, simplified, and not draw attention to another loop. Just keeping it nice and simple. As for your wire, I'm going to use dead soft 16 gauge for this core wire that run down the center. You can use as large as you want, the thickest gauge that you would like, as long as the bead fits on there. That is the only requirement. We're going to use 20 gauge for the ear wire, and then 26 gauge dead soft for the herringbone weave. Super fun. Keep both hammers, something to flatten, something to texturize, and also your nylon hammer to strengthen. And of course, if you've got hammers, you've got a bench block. And of course, I've got this great easy read ruler. Look at all those measurements on there, really great. Let's get started on this great little earring. Okay, we're gonna start on the core wire. And before I do that, I just wanna show you some different effect you can get by adjusting the amount of twist and adjusting how much you flatten the wire out with your hammer. This first one is just very minimally flattened, just almost gone over once or twice with the chasing hammer just to flatten it out a bit, and it just is very subtle. Love that look. And this one I flattened even more, maybe went over 4 or 5 times and got more of a pronounced twist on that. Plus, I experimented with going back over and hammering it flat. I don't think that quite worked, but that is an option if you want to kind of get a flat look that's got some texture going around on the edges. This one, if you notice, is kind of graduated. A light hammering so it's not spreading out too much, and just gradually hammered more and more and more until it flattened out pretty wide, and it created this graduated spiral. And that's what we are going to attempt to match this earring today. Grab your 16 gauge and we're going to measure off 2 inches. Why do I always grab the wrong side of the ruler?
I don't know.
I've cut 2 inches of 16 gauge. I've made sure that both ends are flush, and then I went back and I cleaned them up with a needle file. The more you take time to really clean up these edges, when you go to hammer, the edges will be so clean already and you won't have to do a lot of refining. So take a little extra seconds right now to clean up before you start hammering. And the one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my ruler And then I'm going to grab a Sharpie, and I want to do a little placement measuring here. I'm going to measure off 1 centimeter from what will be the top of the earring, and then a space that my bead is going to sit. So that was about a 1/2 centimeter is the width of this. This doesn't lie. The width of this bead. Now we're going to do some hammering.
Hammer time.
Get your hammer that's going to flatten. And we're just going to start working over from this mark down. And as you see on this example, it's a graduated spiral, so I'm not going to hammer extensively up here, but as I come down, it'll be more and more flat and widened out. I want to demonstrate something for you, as you might find, especially if you're starting a lot of hammering and you're trying to figure out what is happening. There is a slight bowing of this paddle. It's kind of arching up. Do you see that? Just flip it over and hammer into this curve. And what that will do is expand the material, whatever wire that you're using. It will expand that and then in turn push the wire straighter. So I'm just kind of focused on this edge. And I don't know if you can tell, but that is straight now. Well, relatively. Anytime you get a little arching in your hammering, hammer into that curve. It's happening a little more for me because I'm kind of sat back trying to record, so I'm going to have to do more adjusting. I'm going to hammer out the end of this paddle just a little bit more. And that just brought it out a little bit more that I can go in and refine with my needle file. When I did my first earring, apparently I didn't get it in those marks, so I'm going to adjust that. I'm just going to move this up, kind of rub those off. And I'm going to remark where this bead is sitting, so that I don't hammer into that and mess that all up, and then I can't slide the bead on, which is what we've got to do right now. Before we go and hammer that other side, you want to get your bead on. Depending on how much you hammered, it may want to slide down a bit. That's not a big deal because the herringbone wrap is going to hold that in. But we do want to hammer the end out somewhat. It's going to hold that bead on as well. So just put it right on the end of your bench block like that. But don't go into this mark here at the top. So the goal here in flattening this part is that we want to have enough surface area so that when we go and punch this, which is an option, you do not have to hammer out this top part. You could just make a simple bend back and then make a little loop to attach your ear wire. But I want to make sure that I have enough surface area to do this whole punch. So that's what I am working on. And then some of this area is going to be taken up by the herringbone weave. So we should, let me check it. If I get that bead in the place, it should hold and be quite even, and then I can just trim off that top a little bit. Now we're going to move on to putting this twist in this lower paddle. And what I found helpful was using a tweezer nose plier and holding that bead up in there nice and securely, and then coming with, what are these? Flat nose pliers, and then starting our twists. At first you have to start near your other set of pliers, because there's several times, well, at least once, when I just did it down here from the bottom and the end will weaken and it will just break off. So you have to start at the top, maybe a centimeter out, and keep your pliers parallel to each other. Something like that. Go slowly, holding firmly, and twist. And this is going to be really awkward because I'm trying to keep this camera in shot. Let me move this camera up. Let's see if that will help. Lord, help me. Move down a little further and put another twist in there. Make sure you're going in the same direction. It's hard to get my hand to do this properly because I'm in an odd position. Go in slowly. That is the key. Pay attention to the position of your pliers and how they're working together. Oh, I just love this. I really, really love this. Maybe come down a little further. Put another bend. If it's getting a little wonky, you can straighten things out a little bit. So that one is the third one. Basically, one more and we're going to be left with this paddle. See if I can get my hands in here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm coming out from that bend just a little bit to leave room for the twist. Keeping everything straight. Crank it just a little bit, but go slow and watch how the wire is behaving, how the metal is behaving. Make sure that you're not going to break your wire. One, two, three, four, and then I'm just going to refine that paddle so that it matches the other one. Picking up my needle file. See how that looks. Maybe a little thinner actually through here. I think I really hammered out the end of that paddle pretty well. I don't think I had it quite inching up the core wire as much. So it's a little thick right in here. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to adjust that as I would like. But it can't hurt. So keep that in mind too when you're doing hammering. How fat does this need to be? And how far up the wire does it need to be looking like this?
2 hours later.
And then just go back over all your edges and make sure they're smooth. So my paddle is slightly wider up at the top than the one on the right. I don't think I thought about that as much as I should have, but 'tis what it is. This is handmade, right? So I think I could go in here and refine this some more and really slim this down, but I don't want to waste so much time doing that. I want to move on to this really cute herringbone pattern.
Get to the good stuff.
This is where we grab our 26 gauge. And we're going to pull out, You can pull out 24 inches and cut it, or pull out 2 pieces of 12 inches. Just make sure your wire is always nice and clean and you give it a wipe down. Well, especially when you're using copper. And I love copper. Look at it with this green. Love copper. The more and more I work with it, the more I make it. I just love it. And I want to let you know that I don't have any protected clear on these pieces. Nothing. They just stay clean. If you're a jewelry wearer and you don't like to take your jewelry off, copper is the metal for you, because I shower with it, I sleep with it. It's always getting clean as I'm showering and washing dishes. So I don't experience the greening on my fingers. I don't experience the tarnish on the copper, because it's just constantly getting clean and constantly being buffed by my skin, by my clothes, what have you, and staying polished. I really don't have any problem with copper at all. So if you're like me and you're a jewelry wearer that doesn't like to take jewelry off, you just kind of put it in and leave it, you will love copper. So I'm just getting me 2 pieces of just about 12 gauge. You want definitely enough to work with, and you definitely want enough to say, you know what, I want one more. Why be limited, because you didn't cut enough? It's just 26 gauge, cut you some more. You won't regret having a little extra. And my marks have gone away, but I'm pretty sure my bead is supposed to be right about there. So I'm going to really try and hold that. And what you're going to do, take these 2 pieces of 26 gauge and lay over that top paddle. And it's a little finicky for the first little spin, but once it gets going, it's super easy. I'm just going to hold that between my index and my thumb. And the key with this, when you're working with one wire, it doesn't matter if it's staying flat and moving in the same direction. But with 2, you've got to concentrate on keeping the wire sitting next to each other and laying down nicely like that. And I do want my bead up a little further. And one thing I can do is take my first one and just make sure we're kind of headed in the same direction. I think it needs to come up just a little bit more. Now, once you've got your bead that is trying to slip out of position, you're going to watch how your wires are going. We want them to come around and cradle this bead. You see how the wire is going? It's coming around. It's going to cradle the side of this bead that is still wanting to move around on me. And then you want to make sure that it's coming around and laying down flat on that core wire that we did all those wonderful twists on. And we did 1 loop over, and now it's on the bottom. And we're going to take that, making sure that it's staying in line, and bring it over top that core wire. Let me make sure, while I'm not too locked in, you can do a little more repositioning of your bead at this point if you need to. And you should have a little something just about there. We're getting ready to come back around to this top side, so I'm going to trim off these tails, maybe with the right side. Now, I have heard about trimming the 26 gauge just by twisting and rolling off. I don't find that that works for me. Maybe I just haven't mastered it yet. But for right now, I'm just going to trim it, okay? So I've turned my core wire and I'm getting ready to take these two wires of 26 gauge, making sure they're laying flat against the bead. Turning the core wire, and we're just going to lay these down. And the one thing I'm doing is I'm holding with my thumb against that bead. I'm holding it down, these two wires in place, as I kind of turn these wires and lay them down over those two pieces of wire that we just trimmed. It's going to kind of cover that up. Just went over and now I'm underneath. And I'm going to bring that wire back over. And now we're back at the beginning. And the same thing repeats. I'm going to just kind of turn this so I can get to it a little better. Watching how these two wires are laying next to each other. They're not getting twisted. They're laying nice and flat and snug against the bead. You can take your fingernails, kind of just adjust anything to make it lay properly. Bringing it over and down a little further because this is going to start building down this core wire. Over, it's on there underneath, and we're going to bring it back over top again. I'm going to turn my core wire, and it just keeps repeating, except when you bring the next layer around, you're going to bring it underneath the first two wires that we wrapped. Holding this with my thumb, bring it over the top, just down a little further. You don't want to keep over wrapping on previous wraps. Down just a little further. Over. And it just keeps repeating. Every time you come back around, layer your wires underneath the previous ones. And it just makes this little cup around your bead and really locks it into place. Bring that over and under, back over again so we can keep on wrapping. It makes such a complicated weave that is not complicated at all. All we're doing is wrapping around the wire over and under and back around the bead. I would think the key things to remember is holding onto that bead, keep everything nice and firm, and watching your wires, making sure they're close in together. They're sitting properly, and just go slow. Lay that down. I'm going to push it in just a little bit with my fingernails. Turn and just keep wrapping under previous wraps. And just makes that wonderful frame, weaved frame around this bead. And you just keep going until you say that's enough. You see how my wire is split just a little bit? I don't want it to do that. I want to maintain them sitting down next to each other before I lock that weave in place, that wrap in place. Let me see how many I have on the original. I'll get carried away and I'll have 1,000,000 on there. 1, 2, 3. I think I have it just about where it's supposed to be. And from the bead, from this bead, I came up just a little bit more with just regular wraps. Still making sure that the wire is sitting very nicely next to each other. Is that the same amount? That's about right. The one thing I'm noticing is that I must have got it carried away with hammering, and now this top area is fatter than the other one again. So pay attention to how spread out you are hammering the end pieces here. And I'm just going to trim off those edges, and I'll save these for something else. I like coming from the side and pressing them up against the paddle, if you will. Just press those together. You can either use your fingernail or like I'm doing here with the pliers. That is looking good, other than I made the neck a little too thick and I made the paddle a little too thick today. Do you see the difference here? Is that this neck is a little fatter than that. I don't know, have fun with that. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, now that I've got it pretty even, I wanna come over here and mark where I'm gonna use this hole punch. You do not have to do the hole punch. You don't even have to hammer out that top. You can just make a simple loop. Line my punch up with that mark that I made. I find the most difficult thing about using these pliers is then getting your thing that you're working on back off. Sometimes it's just a little twisting back and forth will make it come off. I have tried WD-40. I have tried everything to make it come off, and it just doesn't want to come off. Now I've got a little bit of an extension that I want to trim. I'm just going to manually trim this a little bit, just like you would almost a fingernail. And then with my needle file, just trim that up a little bit and refine the edges. I want to make sure this paddle, I don't know if you can see the way this is straight towards us, but the angle of this paddle down here is a little going to the left. So what I'm going to do is just grab this top, grab that bottom, and just gently turn that bottom paddle so that it sits facing more towards us. Make sure our top is nice and straight with the bead. That's sitting all right. And make sure you file that hole where we punched, because there might be little burrs or something kind of sticking up. You don't want anything to catch. And there we have our second earring. Things I learned from doing this second one is that I think I hammered too much close to those Sharpie marks that we made. I think I need to keep the flattening, the extensive flattening right on the ends, and then more subtly bring that hammer closer to those Sharpie marks. So it's not so, it's a little too fat in here. I liked it a little thinner right here at the top. But it is what it is, and we roll on. So let's make an ear wire so that we got a little matching pair here. I'm gonna pick up my 20 gauge. Of course, always wiping it down, flushing my ends, and I'm gonna guess I'm going for 2 inches. Let's see what that is. Oh, I feel it's a little long. It's a little long. Ah, way long. Carrie is not a winner today. I am so sorry. Let me just trim that down to 2 inches. And then with bail pliers, it makes it so easy, especially if you do both at the same time. We're gonna go with the 2mm bail, smallest one on my pliers, to make the hook, oh my gosh. That thing that attaches to the earring. Just keep rolling that wire until it touches the wire again. We're gonna flip over, back into the pliers, but move it down so that we can use the 9mm bail. So you have it in here like this, and just press closely, firmly back against that bail. I just kind of slip right off, go right up to that little first loop that we made, and just give a subtle bend back like that. And then of course you would take a file and make sure your ends are nice and smooth. The only problems I ever have with ear wires, copper or what have you, is when I don't file the ends and then I try to stick them on my ears. We're just going to open that loop to the side, pick up our finished earring, make sure the front is facing forward, and close that loop once again. So I learned a lot making these earrings. I had never ever done a spirally twist like this before. I just decided there's got to be a way to make a different kind of twist. I was watching one of those videos that it comes out of some foreign country and they're making some glorious silver piece of jewelry on a stump of a tree with like nothing, and it comes out and it's glorious, but they had this effect on the wire that was a single wire that was twisted, and it had this wonderful spiral just built into a single piece of wire. So there has got to be a way to do that, because it really doesn't do it with round wire. All you're doing, if you just twist round wire that hasn't been flattened, all you're doing is strengthening the wire. But soon as you put a little bit of flattening with your chase hammer and then you start to twist, you get such a wonderful subtle twist. Do some more hammering, keep on twisting, it's even more dramatic. And then if you do what we did here, by hammering a little bit and a little more as you go down the way, you get a wonderful graduated spiral. You could even hole punch this and dangle another piece of whatever that coordinates with your bead down at the bottom. I mean, if that doesn't look like a Christmas ornament, a Christmas icicle-y thing, I don't know what else. But it really can be adapted to an all-year earring depending on whatever bead you put in there. I mean, this green sparkly bead it screams Christmas, but try something pearl-ish or summery blues and pinks, you know, for something for spring and summer, and really just have a nice single drop earring that is dramatic. It's got, hey, look at me, but it's really light. There's not a whole lot to this, but it has a lot of structure to it as well. So I think you're really going to enjoy this. I think you're going to learn a lot as you're doing this, learning how to do the spiral. And if you've never done the herringbone weave before, if 2 wires is just too much, just try 1 wire. It works the exact same way and come up with a totally different look. Okay, I got a question for you. What do you think about if we switch to Wednesdays and it becomes Wonky Wire Wednesday? I'm having kind of a conflict of schedules at my main job, and it would probably work better if I could do tutorials on Wednesday. I start really early in the morning, about 7 o'clock in the morning I started recording this, and it takes me all day, so I really need a full day to concentrate on being with you, my wonky wire workers. So what do you think about switching to a Wednesday? Does that work with your schedule? Do you really look forward to it? You know, it's got to be on a Tuesday, and that's when you plan out your day and your schedule for the week. Let me know if Wednesday would be okay with you. So that is my big question to you today. And my other question would be, as you saw in a recent post on the community tab, I asked you about ear cuffs. I got a lot of good feedback on that, and the percentage of people that were interested in ear cuffs was quite significant. So I think I'm going to be working on that for next week. So let me know down in the comments if you're interested in ear cuffs. Don't forget about that community tab where you can post what you're working on and others can see it as well. It's only for subscribers. I appreciate your subscription. I appreciate you liking and commenting and hyping this video as always. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great weekend. You're enjoying your holidays, enjoying time with family and shopping. And I'll see you next week where we make something beautiful together for Tutorial Tuesday. Well, I have my whole hairbrush and my bracelet. What the world? Come on. What? Maybe if I could be in the camera. Oh my, I probably don't have a pen down here, of course. Jack squat. Oh my gosh, I just broke the bead. Nice one, Carrie. Oh my gosh, this doesn't fit on there at all. Oh, precious. Oh, Father, what did I do? Yeah. Oh boy. It's like kid and play over here.